Hello, welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. Congratulations to all of those who have renewed as MVPs again this year. July the 1st is the renewal date for MVPs. I was talking to someone today actually who said they didn't realise that MVPs had to get renewed every year. And yes, so the way it works is that your contributions that you make, they only count for a year. So every year you get reevaluated and reawarded. So July the 1st is the time when existing MVPs get renewed, and I was fortunate enough to have been renewed this year, and I see lots of others as well going through the same process. So congratulations to all those who have renewed. Extra special congratulations to any new MVPs who have joined this month. You're really welcome. Come and say hello. Ping me for just find out what you do. It's kind of interesting. I'm always blown away, talking to other MVPs and stuff. There's so much stuff in the Microsoft ecosystem that I just don't know anything about. And it's fascinating just to kind of chat through some of this stuff with other people. All right, it's been kind of a busy week for kind of news and things that have been happening. And I've got some blog posts to talk through. So 4 of them are kind of my blog posts, and then one that I've taken from somewhere else. So let's get into it. All right, so the first thing, I'm not going to kind of cover it in loads and loads of detail here, but I put a blog post together about the news that's been kind of circulating and written up in a few places around the Microsoft Teams client that's going into Windows 11. And that by itself is interesting. There was a kind of side piece of news that came out on Twitter that the Teams client is being rewritten from Electron to WebView 2. And so I put a blog post together because I heard lots and lots of people saying those things, but actually I wanted to kind of dig through, what does that actually mean? What does it mean for the client? What does it mean for people that are using it? What does it mean for the Teams engineering team in terms of what they can do now that they couldn't do before? What are the pros? What are the cons? What should we look out for? So that's what that blog post is. And there's a video in there as well, just kind of covering that move from Electron to WebView 2 and what I think it means for the Teams client. So that's the first blog post. You can go and check that one out. I kind of go into a lot of detail about things like, what does it enable that it couldn't enable before? What does it mean for Mac OS and for Linux? What does it mean for VDI? What does it mean for Electron? And also touching on the client SDKs. So desktop client SDKs, we've been asking for those in Teams since Teams launched. And there aren't any. So it's kind of interesting to think through, why is that? Does this change make them more likely than they were, or less likely, or doesn't change anything at all? So yeah, just some thoughts I had might be, of interest. And I tried to kind of keep it relatively high level as well, and not dig too deep into the development level kind of tech detail around, swapping out something like Electron and using something like WebView 2 instead. But I more tried to pitch it at, what does this actually mean for the client in higher level terms? So that's one thing. Other thing that happened this week was a blog post around Azure Communication Services and one of the SDKs. So the Azure Communication Services SDK is split into a number of different packages. There's a common one, there's a calling one, there's a chat one, there's some other ones. And this is specifically about the calling one. And there's an update, and there's updates all the time to all of the packages, and they're all on NPM, so you can go and look at the versions and you can get your updates either in code or, just by downloading the packages from the NPM repository. But this one is worth just double checking because it's basically, what does it do? So it replaces a previous version of calling that is going to get deprecated. So the upgrade to so this is 1.10. So there's a new version of communication calling, which is 1.10, and it's required because Chrome is going to drop support for Plan B STP semantics, which I do not know enough about to be in any way authoritative. It seems there's a few different ways of doing SDP, and Plan B is one of those, and now it's going away and requires some SDK changes to how to cope with that. And it's going into Chrome, and it's going into Chrome relatively soon. So the support is going to be dropped in M93, which is how Chrome does its versions. And M93 goes to the Canary, which is like the fast ring, if you like. It goes to Canary on July 15th, and it goes to the stable branch on August 24th. So August 24th is when, the vast majority of people are going to get this. So by that point, you really need to have got to 1.10. Microsoft is saying you should get there before July 31st. This is not important to you if you don't have any apps in production and everything's all in test, and it doesn't really matter if it breaks and you'll figure it out. But if you've got stuff in production, you definitely need to get on this. And it's quite easy actually to end up on an old version of the SDK, because you won't notice. Like you got it from NPM when Azure Communication Services first got launched, even when it was in preview. Maybe you got the SDK then. You've been building on it. You haven't hit a wall where you needed to update the SDK at all, so you haven't really noticed that these versions have been increasing and incrementing all the time. So it's worth double checking. Figure out what version of the Calling SDK you're on, and then if you need to, get upgraded. If you want to be on the cutting edge, actually 1.10 is not the latest. There is another one. It's a 1.20 beta 1. So you could go to that if you wanted to. Maybe not in production, but if you were kind of trying stuff out in dev and test, you can go to that one instead if you want to. Okay, other things. So this, another blog post but not by me, by someone else whose name I can't remember. And actually I've used their blog posts before, but I haven't kind of identified them by name because they don't do so on their blog, and so I didn't want to. That's right, I remember now. Sorry, big yawn. It's Friday and it's been one of those weeks, and it's been so much one of those weeks that I've started kind of I thought this update was needed some beer. So yeah, anyway, new blog post by Tech Peanuts. So let me share this so you can see it. And this is all about Company Communicator. So I've definitely talked about Company Communicator before. Microsoft Teams app template, really popular at the moment with businesses for sending out messages to the whole workforce. And there's lots of different ways you can customize it. And I've done some customizations as well in the past. And this is another such one. And it's all around formatting. So this person adds some really nice new functionality to Company Communicator. A few things. So summary formatting. So you can see multiple buttons. You can see hyperlinks. You've got the ability to flag messages as important as well, which is kind of nice. Some really nice changes here that you could implement if you've got Company Communicator. And a couple of different ways you could do that. This person goes through the kind of detail, if you like, of hooking it up to their GitHub, so you can go and grab the code from them. You could do it that way, or you could just go and fork theirs and implement and integrate it into yours if you've already made changes. Lots and lots of different options. All their code is out on GitHub kind of for free. So here you go. His name is Cristiano. So you can go and check out Cristiano's stuff, and if any of the things you're trying to do in Company Communicator line up with these, then off you go. Enjoy. Cool. All right, next up. This is a kind of a biggie. So change notifications in Microsoft Graph. We've had them around for a while, and we've been able to do various things with them, not just in Microsoft Teams, but across all of Graph. There's not widespread support across Graph for change notifications, but there is support in a couple of key places like users and files and Teams. And in Teams, it's predominantly users being added and removed, and messages being added to Teams and channels, and messages being added to chat. And that's been in place for a little while now. And what's new today is new support with new types of change notifications for subscribing to changes for teams and channel structures. So that's things like the settings changing in teams and channels and members being added and deleted. So that's really interesting. So new teams being created, new channels being created, channels being deleted, teams being deleted, the settings on teams and channels being updated. So channel names changing, channel guest policies being changed. New private channels being added, anything like that. You can now get a notification for. And that's huge. Like that makes a massive difference to all sorts of applications. So right now, the only way to get a lot of that stuff is to poll for it. So this is a really big change, actually. So really exciting. It's going to change and unlock how a lot of people kind of get access to stuff. Like I say, right now, you need to poll. If you want to know if like a team's name has changed, you're going to have to poll that team every day or every week or whatever it is to figure that stuff out and compare it to what you've got stored. And that's a big overhead. And it's actually an overhead on Microsoft as well. Like this change is probably as much for Microsoft as it is for developers, because there's a big overhead to all these developers everywhere polling all this stuff all the time, trying to figure out if stuff has changed. So by flipping it to a webhook model, this change notification model, suddenly none of that is needed anymore. You can just get a notification when something has changed on a team or a channel. So I see this being really important for things like compliance software and kind of change management and IT admin and all that kind of teams management features and stuff like that. So really kind of interesting, really exciting. I put a blog post together. I haven't done a video or anything. I've got a blog post. I've linked to me talking about change notifications in the past because, I've talked about them a couple of times in the past. And these are the things you can do. Here we go. So you can subscribe to notifications about changes to a specific team or to all channels in a specific team. But also you can get notifications about changes to all teams in the tenant, and you can get notifications to all channels in all teams in the tenant. So really wide ranging. And if you're building compliance, you want it to be wide ranging, right? You want it to capture everything and not just some things. So completely makes sense. New notification subscriptions. They're all in beta at the moment, so just bear that in mind. They can also all support resource data in the payload. So I'll put a link to that if you don't know what that is. But I'm just going to say it. If you do know what it is, you can get the resource data in the payload. Got me thinking, and I sort of tacked this bit on the end of the blog post, but kind of got me thinking a little bit about what does this mean. And what's interesting is that if you go to Power Automate today, you can set up a flow that triggers on things like members being added to a team or people being mentioned or specific keywords being mentioned as well. So I don't know any of this, but I feel like maybe some of these new notifications about teams and channels being modified and the settings being changed, I feel like that is a really good thing that could come to Power Automate as a trigger, because suddenly that would light up all sorts of teams management, IT workflows around alerting when settings are changed or when new teams get created, when teams get deleted. So lots and lots of interesting kind of workflows get opened up there if that stuff was to come to Power Automate. So we'll have to wait and see. Don't know if it's going to or not, but yeah, just thought it was interesting. So yeah, that's the blog post I did today actually, because I only found out about it today. I think the announcement was I can't remember exactly when it was. It was earlier in the week, I think, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, possibly. All right, and finally, I'm going to leave you with one more thing, and it's not that exciting. It's not that much of an exciting one more thing, but it's welcome nonetheless. Power Apps pricing. So Power Apps pricing has always been a bit of a nightmare. It's a bit of a nightmare because I've been at conferences where Power Apps licensing and pricing has been a entire talk subject for somebody, so it's kind of a bit overly complicated, and Microsoft are simplifying it, which is good news. It's going to be either they're going to keep the per user plan and they're going to keep the per app plan, and they're lowering the price of the per user plan and they are lowering the price of the per app plan. Okay, so both are being halved. So the per user plan is going to be $20 per month and the per app plan is going to be $5 per month. yeah, which is good. The aim is to make it more simple. So make it very obvious. You're either you're either licensed per user, in which case you can have as many apps as you want for that user, or you're licensed per app, and you can have as many users as you want for that app, but you can only have one app. And so they're simplifying some of the other requirements. Like right now with the app plan, there are some weird use cases where one license doesn't always mean one app. I think you can have 2 apps maybe in one workspace or something. I can't really remember. Anyway, that's changing to be 1 app per license, which I guess is a narrowing of what the license allows, but kind of makes sense to me, and it's simpler as well. If you're already in an agreement, so I should say actually, this doesn't come into effect until October 1st. If you've got an existing agreement that goes past October the 1st, Microsoft will just keep it going. And there's also all sorts of promotions on at the moment, and they're going to be maintained between now and October 1st. So if you want to get on one of those, you totally can do as well. I'll put a link to the blog post that Microsoft have done around that, because it's got all the details of all the promotional offers and stuff as well. So yeah, more simple Power Apps pricing, I think is welcomed. And it's worth reading through and understanding as well, because I think people skip this step in the hurry to jump on board the low code, no code stuff. And it's not that it's a bad thing. It's just worth remembering, right? Nothing is free, and that includes Power Apps. And at some point there is a cost. The cost can be very low, $5 per app per month. That's good. Yeah, I mean, like $20 to enable a user to create, as many apps as they want, which is great, and to run, as many apps and portals as they want. So, it's just worth remembering. It's not entirely free, but obviously it's a much lower kind of barrier to entry for lots and lots of people than just cracking open Visual Studio and starting from scratch. So, it's all trade-offs, right? So. All right, I think that's everything from me. Like I say, been a busy week. The Electron to WebView 2 stuff was really interesting to dig into. Really enjoyed that. But also very excited for these new change notifications. I think we have not heard the last of those. I think we will see them being used in all sorts of interesting places coming up. So yeah, very exciting. All right, I think that's everything from me. Have a good weekend, whatever it is you're doing. And I'm going to go and finish this and call it a day, I think. All right. Have a good one, and speak to you next week.